Welcome back to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. We're talking about IT modernization. And I was asking the guest about a specific program they'd like to highlight. Nicholas, let me throw it over to you at Snowflake.
Yeah, thanks, Luke. The one that's kind of closest to my heart, Snowflake's got a lot of great IT modernization stories, but probably the one I like the most at the moment are advances we're making in healthcare. And it's not just customer-facing healthcare or patient-facing healthcare, it's also on general US healthcare. For example, COVID-19 has been a huge area where Snowflake has done everything that we can to contribute to research and development of the vaccines. But most importantly, we've been working with the state of California to be their COVID-19 dashboard provider. All the data that goes into California for their COVID-19 dashboard for the governor, for the individual regions inside of the state, and also for private citizens. And our efforts there have been so successful. California posted their COVID data onto our data marketplace, which is like an app store for data sets, so that private citizens and researchers can access that data. It's all anonymized, of course, and very, very safe. But that data was pushed up there so that folks could research that data and look into it. And that's really why I like focusing on solutions like that. I go back to what the good doctor said a few minutes ago about taking talent down to the lowest person and how do we get everybody involved in this, talking about making soldiers a little more data focused. We can't get there in IT modernization without modernizing our people as well. It's something that Snowflake sees a lot of, teaching folks how to use those new architectures and the benefits of cloud and not just having somebody else's computer run their software. It's a huge thing to consider, and Snowflake has seen a lot of success when we get folks involved at the lower levels, because again, it's a database that doesn't need to be scary.
Great example there. I'm going to roll it over to top priorities. Give me two. Dominic, Department of Veterans Affairs. You got a lot of stuff going on over there. Give us your top two priorities for the year.
Yeah, hey, a lot of priorities, but I'll focus on one or two. The secretary, our new secretary, Dennis McDonough, one of his top priorities that he mentioned during his testimony on the Hill was fighting the pandemic. And many of you might know, VA has what we call a fourth mission, and that is to be the backup healthcare system for the United States if our hospitals are overwhelmed. So that's a big responsibility. So one of our priorities in helping with that is the use of, as I mentioned earlier, telehealth. So I'll focus a little bit on leveraging mobile devices. What we've always had the ability to do, or we've had for many years the ability to do telehealth, but there was always this apprehension and resistance on behalf of both the clinicians, the doctors, and the patients to do this remotely. But COVID sort of forced our hand on that, and it really showed the clinicians and the patients the power of telehealth and the ability to leverage mobile devices to provide a really robust and rich interaction between a patient and a care provider. So, as I've mentioned, we've really beefed up our numbers on mobile devices and the applications that run on them so that we can have this rich environment. What we'd like to do is pair that with an increase in wearables. Those are the devices that people wear that feed health information, like heart rate, information about diabetes care, blood pressure, things like that we can integrate into this and make it even a more rich, using things like Apple Watches and these digital scales that are Bluetooth enabled. It'll really give that continuity of care to doctors. And if I had to mention a second one, I'll mention the leveraging of data. As was mentioned earlier by Rob and Heidi, there's vast treasure troves of data out there in government. So we're going to be focusing on things that we can do to really get that data working for our veterans.
Sounds fantastic. Heidi, top priority for this year for you all over at Immigration and Customs Enforcement?
I would say one of our top priorities is accelerating delivery. So, speed to market is really important for us. We're looking at our processes, our tools, our contracts. We want to make sure that our programs understand our capabilities and have an efficient intake process for new requirements. We're really setting up a center of excellence for for platform as a service and low code, no code capabilities to ensure that we can give applications, get them out there quickly, but then also provide customizable support when users need it. A recent example was we needed a new tracking mechanism for some of the new administration's priorities, and we were able to put together a form in just a few days, and it was ready for production in 2 weeks. We're making sure that we have fully ATO'd environments and that they meet privacy requirements. And I know that sometimes there are going to be needs for custom development, but we want to make sure we give the capabilities to get the business processes and the mission critical functions out there quickly.
Sure. Time to market, always really important. Raj, number one priority for you at the Army as you enter on service there?
Yeah, I'd say the biggest one that we're looking at now is kind of modernizing our ERP system. So the Army has 4 ERP systems for logistics, financial management, and real property management. And as you all probably tracking, SAP, that's been kind of the leader in the market for almost 40 years now. The core products and the versions that that they have supported over the last few years are now really at end of life. And the Army is staring at how do we modernize these ERP systems, leveraging lessons learned from the past, and what should that future architecture need to look like? Do we still need an ERP system moving forward? And I'm sure we all have heard horror stories about ERP systems not achieving return on investment, but yet it's kind of like a necessary evil, to run your enterprise. And we are really taking a hard look at how do we want to, we had to redo this all over, and which is where we are now. What would that look like? And does it need to include a core ERP, or should it just be, a transactional system with microservices and workflows that run the enterprise? How customized should it be? Does it need to be customized? And if you try to get to out of the box processes, do you lose your competitive advantage or the inability to execute your mission because you're now forced to do something that's an out of the box process? And so we are heavily investing now in a massive business process reengineering effort that's looking at how we do business and how unique is it in the Army compared to our commercial partners in the same space when it comes to logistics and supply chain management, and also looking at our policies, because if we continue to be constrained by antique policies that force us to do things in a certain way, it doesn't matter how great you are in reengineering your process, you're always constrained by policy. So we're looking at policies, processes, and the technology to be able to modernize our ERP into the future so that we have a lower total cost of ownership for our ERP systems moving forward.
And I think that's fair. This tectonic shift in the pace of technology change now, you need to continue to re-examine that and make sure that something you thought about in the journey you started, maybe an IT modernization journey, perhaps 5 years ago, is still the right thing to do, being that the technology has changed considerably. Well, this is a fantastic conversation. We are going to talk about the future, and I'm going to ask Nick to start us off. And, just tell us what it looks like in a couple of years. What's sort of coming out of the Petri dish at Snowflake, and what can we expect in a couple of years?
Well, I've got my crystal ball out, Luke. So I think, the big move to cloud isn't going to slow down. In fact, that inertia is going to get, I think, a whole lot bigger, a whole lot greater, especially after COVID, as we go sort of into the next phase of the pandemic and get a little bit more freedom. We're not going to see a huge transition back to the way things were. We're going to keep moving forward. One thing we've seen out of COVID is that agencies and between not just local government, but local and federal, have become much better about collaboration and data sharing. And we see that trend continuing. There will be more public-facing data sets and honestly more private data sets that government agencies want to share with each other, but not necessarily with the public, and maybe not with the same level of granularity. We'll see more law enforcement, homeland security data sets being shared with DOJ. We'll see a lot of medical research and medical data sets, HR data sets, weather, you name it. There's no limit in sight for what data sharing on the Snowflake data platform is going to bring.
Fantastic, and we certainly look forward to that. Scott, how about at Verizon? You talked about 5G When that gets fully unlocked and enabled, what does it look like? What does the world look like in a fully enabled 5G, et cetera?
Well, first of all, we'll be able to deploy a brand new system called the anti-fiber seeking backhoe system, where there's a jolt of electricity that pops the guy out of the seat and stops the engine. No, that's a dream, right? That's not going to really happen. So what does 5G look like? Well, first of all, 5G does. 5G changes absolutely nothing for application developers. Application developers don't build latency into apps. Latency comes from the destination and the landscape of the solution, right? There's no intent. You don't see developers going, I'm going to make this app go ahead and hold up for 35 milliseconds just to make the user nervous. They don't do that. Developers build solutions to help users effectively use what they want to do. The reality of the development world, if you think about it, Steve Jobs threw the entire world on its ear in 2007 when he changed software. Software before 2007, it was 40, 50, 60 bucks for a piece of software. You took the full functionality of that software. Jobs opened the Apple Store. You got these bite-sized apps. That's what 5G is going to empower even more, where less and less and less reliance on the device in your pocket, and more reliance on the cloud, more reliance on the ability to share the processing, because you're not going to have latency. You're not going to have that need to do as much locally, because ultimately with that new world, you're going to be able to quickly get that data. Best case example, I was in the Mall of America right after the Mall of America was 5G lit, right after the first COVID lockdown was loosened a little bit in DC. I was in the Mall of America, and I had to upload something from my cell phone, actually from my laptop, using my cell phone as a hotspot. I had to upload something. It was a very large file, almost a terabyte in size. Using the 5G ultra wideband currently available in the Mall of America, sitting on a bench, looking at the Capitol building, I was able to upload that. I think it was like 980 or 960 gig in less than 5 minutes. I think that's the future.
That's remarkable. Better than Wi-Fi speed anywhere. Rob Carey, how about at Cloudera? What's it look like? What are you seeing around the corner there as you enter into that environment over there?
So, I see hybrid cloud maybe gravitating more towards all cloud. We need to be sorting. I see us over the next couple of years sorting the data wheat from the data chaff, ergo legacy from what we're using today. I see the distributed workforce being, as a couple of folks have said, the way of the future. So I'm accessing data and applications from wherever I happen to be, which does require the cloud. So now I see moving cloud enablement from a somewhat difficult process to a rote process, because in my mind, it is still not a rote process per se. So I think in the next couple of years, we will enable the ease of transition into cloud. And then doing that allows me to then start analyzing my data, the edge to AI kind of analysis, and enable really accelerated, informed decision-making by those who need it. So I think this is really just making us better at any mission we're doing, whether it's DOMS, whether it's Raj's, the access to that data by who needs it, and then be able to query it in near real time is going to help us get better at our mission.
Sounds like, based on what Verizon just said, real time, which is fantastic, and appreciate that. And again, congratulations on the new appointment. Dominic, what's it look like for the veterans? You gave us a little intro into what's going on there as far as telehealth. What's it going to look like in 2 to 3 years? What's the thinking going on in the head shed over there?
Yeah, so the future is clear for us. This digital transformation we all embarked on, this isn't a nice to have kind of thing. It's a need to have. I mean, we've shown for businesses or government services to survive, we need to have a strong digital presence. There's not going to be any going back from the enhanced remote presence we're seeing through all of our organizations, where there was apprehension and a pause before going to telework, telehealth, telehearings, telecounseling, things like that. And we're all in. And now that people see the power of it and are getting used to it and like it, we not only see us not going back, but we see the demand increasing. So we're going to continue to invest in our mobile technologies, as I mentioned, in our infrastructure that supports a remote presence. In terms of data, we really want to start implementing some industry-leading data analysis and machine learning tools to help our researchers at VA and our data scientists make new healthcare discoveries and streamline our VA operations. And like I said earlier, get that data working for the veterans. We have their data. We're the stewards of their data. If we can get that working for them, so it makes their lives better, then we're in good shape. We're going to focus on security. We are working on integrating and embedding automated security functions into our DevSecOps processes and our agile development processes. So it's built in there truly, not just bolted on at the end. We're also looking at automation technologies such as robotic process automation and RPA to help us with our claims processing. If you can save 10 seconds on processing a claim when you're processing billions of them a year, that's a huge muscle movement. So we really want to look at RPA. And then I'll mention the use of APIs. APIs is a tool to bridge our veterans with their data and allow an ecosystem of independent developers to develop APIs, application programming interfaces that will allow veterans to tap into their data. We really see a future there.
And I love the idea of this veterans confidence in this new capability and really a completely reimagination of the user experience. I think that's fantastic. Heidi, what does, if I'm an agent graduating out of the academy in a couple of years, I'm going to get issued a firearm, I'm going to get issued a badge, am I going to get issued a laptop too? I mean, what does it look like in the future?
For ICE, it's any device, anywhere. So, we've developed a mobility roadmap that will ensure transparency across all operating environments, from a tablet to the desktop to the device, the mobile phone, and ensuring that no matter where the agent is in the field, in his government vehicle, in the office, at home, that he has the same user experience across all of those capabilities. Making sure there are apps that they can simply and securely do their jobs, as well, that we have the network, the hardware, the infrastructure in place, the audio, video, and collaboration tools across all environments. And we actually have a workplace transformation initiative within ICE that's focused on the workplace of the future, whether it be in the office or at home, and establishing, flexible spaces. We're working with our facilities team as well as our human resources to make sure that we have that remote capability as well as coming in the office, and that they have the tools they need. We're installing reservation systems. We make sure that they have Wi-Fi. We're implementing e-fax. We do still do faxing, so we're supporting that as well. Making sure they have the tablets they need. We're piloting a new audio video conferencing capability that will work across environments, across the desktop, the phone, the workstation, the conference room. And we're also piloting a zero trust solution, because we know that security is going to be key as well, whether or not, whether you're mobile or in a dispersed environment.
Complete ubiquitous environment based on a zero trust architecture. I love it. Thank you very much. Raj, how about at U.S. Army? What's the experience for that soldier in a couple of 3 years?
Yeah, I think there's one takeaway from this panel. I think it's all about the data, right? I think it's very clear when we look at each of the case studies and the implementations underway. I heard the word data more than I heard technology and anything else. And so for the Army, it's the same thing. It's decision making at the speed of war. And it's how well we're able to leverage data at echelon, right? All the way from soldier being a sensor right? And being able to collect data, process data, and be able to send it back to the enterprise, through, disconnected and, highly latent networks. And it's about how we establish data standards for interoperability, because when we have to fight, we're fighting not just with our sister partners and our joint partners in the DoD, but it's also with our allied nations. And every time, you bring on an additional set of players into that, the complexity of data and your integration and interoperability is now an order of magnitude more complex. And the only way you're going to address that is by leveraging AI, right? So we need AI to augment decision making. This certainly cannot be one where we can have human beings both through terabytes of data, when we are milliseconds away, fighting off hypersonic missiles and fire coming at us. And so AI is going to be critical. And the Army is well on its way through our Project Convergence pilot programs, validating these technologies. And we're confident over the next few years, between now and 2028, we will have a fully integrated system of capabilities that leverages cloud data and AI as our warfighting platform.
And I know that'll be done very thoughtfully and carefully, and we look forward to that. Heidi and Raj both, I wanted to congratulate you on your new appointments there, and we're going to have to wrap it up here. So I want to thank all of you for taking the time from your busy schedules to join us for this program. I'd like to thank our sponsors for supporting us on the show. I'd like to thank the good people here at Federal News Network that make our program so successful and enjoyable. And most of all, I'd like to thank you, the listening audience out there that tune into this program every month. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum, part of the Federal News Network.